Hello and welcome to Better Body Movement. This class is designed to walk you through some of the most commonly corrupted movement patterns and help you to fix those in order to start feeling well throughout the day. So what we'll do is we're going to start with some self-myofascial release or self-massage in order to loosen the tight muscles in your body. Then we're going to get into a workout routine that actually will teach you how to completely change the way that you move in order to feel well. I'm excited that you've joined us. Please like this video or subscribe to the channel. If you subscribe, you're going to get notifications of when we do go live, as well as any new videos that we post. So you do those right now, that way we make sure we have them done. We'll see you in a little bit. To best help your hips, you must understand the deep muscles under the glutes that hold your hip socket in place. The piriformis connects to the anterior sacrum and sacral ligament to the greater trochanter of the femur. The obturator externus connects from the obturator foramen to the trochanteric fossa of the femur. The remaining deep muscles are the gemellus superior, obturator internus, gemellus inferior, and quadratus femoris. We're going to begin with a stretch of the piriformis. Start seated in a chair and place one foot on top of the opposite knee. To create the stretch, pull the hips forward as if pushing your belly button through the hole between your legs. In this stretch, press your foot down into the knee for 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Relax and pick up the slack for about 10 seconds. 8, 7. Again, you're relaxing the belly button through the knees. 4, 2, 1. Press the foot into the leg for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And pick up the slack, relaxing forward. 8, 7, 3, 2, 1. Repeat this process for a total of 10 contractions. Now, in the same figure 4 position, use a lacrosse ball to increase the intensity. Place it right at the head of the femur where the piriformis inserts. You may have to roll around a little bit to find the tender spot. Once you find it, repeat the 5-second contract and 10-second relax sequence for a total of 10 repetitions. Next, we're going to work the glute maximus. The glute muscle starts at the posterior sacrum, ilium, and posterior gluteal line of the ilium, all the way down the gluteal tuberosity of the femur, iliotibial tract attaching to the lateral condyle of the tibia. When the glutes are not working correctly, the attachments at the knee take the brunt of the pain. We're going to begin the work on the glutes by simply sitting on the foam roller and rolling back and forth. If you feel like you're not getting enough pressure, you can lean to one side, either with your arm on the ground or your arm on the foam roller. Remember to work the glutes with different leg positions. You can roll them in or let them drop out while you continue to roll back and forth over that tissue, looking for the most tender and sore spots. When you find one, sit and hold. After some deep breaths, move on. Continue to find the most tender spots on the left and right sides. If it feels like you didn't get enough pressure, move on to the lacrosse ball. Place the lacrosse ball under the glute muscle. Side note, to take some pressure off the wrists, simply use your foam roller as an armrest under your elbows. Begin rolling the ball around the glute muscle till you find a tender spot. Pause and breathe. Remember to take deep breaths through the diaphragm. Each time you breathe out, relax more into the lacrosse ball. Next, we're going to focus on the glute medius, minimus, and the tensor fascia lata. The glute medius connects from the iliac crest of the ilium between the posterior and anterior gluteal lines out to the greater trochanter of the femur. Beneath the gluteus medius is the gluteus minimus. This muscle begins from the ilium between the anterior and inferior gluteal lines to the anterior surface of the greater trochanter of the femur. These two muscles work together to steady the pelvis during ipsilateral training, or standing on one leg. The tensor fasciae latae begins from the iliac crest posterior to anterior superior iliac spine, all the way down to the iliotibial tract, which you can see is the lateral condyle of the tibia. Much like the glute max, when these muscles are not firing, the pressure goes directly into your knees. Laying on your back with a straight leg and your opposite knee bent, place the lacrosse ball next to your hip. Do not lift the hips to place the ball, simply relax on the floor, place the ball beside your hip, now roll over onto the ball. You may have to move the ball around a little bit to find the right spots, but ultimately you are looking for the pain to settle into the lacrosse ball. You may begin by rolling the knee in and out or pressing down into the floor and lifting the leg just a tiny bit. This position is uncomfortable. Stay here until you feel those muscles relax and you can allow your pressure to lay on the lacrosse ball. To best help your hips, you must understand the deep muscles under the glutes that hold your hip socket in place. The piriformis connects to the anterior sacrum and sacral ligament to the greater trochanter of the femur. The obturator externus connects from the obturator foramen to the trochanteric fossa of the femur. The remaining deep muscles are the gemellus superior, obturator internus, gemellus inferior, and quadratus femoris. We're going to begin with a stretch of the piriformis. Start seated in a chair and place one foot on top of the opposite knee. To create the stretch, pull the hips forward as if pushing your belly button through the hole between your legs. In this stretch, press your foot down into the knee for 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Relax and pick up the slack for about 10 seconds. 8, 7. Again, you're relaxing the belly button through the knees. 4, 2, 1. Press the foot into the leg for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And pick up the slack, relaxing forward. 8, 7, 3, 2, 1. Repeat this process for a total of 10 contractions. Now, in the same figure 4 position, use a lacrosse ball to increase the intensity. Place it right at the head of the femur where the piriformis inserts. You may have to roll around a little bit to find the tender spot. Once you find it, repeat the 5-second contract and 10-second relax sequence for a total of 10 repetitions. Next, we're going to work the glute maximus. The glute muscle starts at the posterior sacrum, ilium, and posterior gluteal line of the ilium, all the way down the gluteal tuberosity of the femur, iliotibial tract attaching to the lateral condyle of the tibia. When the glutes are not working correctly, the attachments at the knee take the brunt of the pain. We're going to begin the work on the glutes by simply sitting on the foam roller and rolling back and forth. If you feel like you're not getting enough pressure, you can lean to one side, either with your arm on the ground or your arm on the foam roller. Remember to work the glutes with different leg positions. You can roll them in or let them drop out while you continue to roll back and forth over that tissue, looking for the most tender and sore spots. When you find one, sit and hold. After some deep breaths, move on. Continue to find the most tender spots on the left and right sides. If it feels like you didn't get enough pressure, move on to the lacrosse ball. Place the lacrosse ball under the glute muscle. Side note, to take some pressure off the wrists, simply use your foam roller as an armrest under your elbows. Begin rolling the ball around the glute muscle till you find a tender spot. Pause and breathe. Remember to take deep breaths through the diaphragm. Each time you breathe out, relax more into the lacrosse ball. Next, we're going to focus on the glute medius, minimus, and the tensor fasciae lata. The glute medius connects from the iliac crest of the ilium between the posterior and anterior gluteal lines out to the greater trochanter of the femur. Beneath the gluteus medius is the gluteus minimus. This muscle begins from the ilium between the anterior and inferior gluteal lines to the anterior surface of the greater trochanter of the femur. These two muscles work together to steady the pelvis during ipsilateral training, or standing on one leg. The tensor fasciae lata begins from the iliac crest posterior to anterior superior iliac spine, all the way down to the iliotibial tract, which you can see is the lateral condyle of the tibia. Much like the glute max, when these muscles are not firing, the pressure goes directly into your knees. Laying on your back with a straight leg and your opposite knee bent, place the lacrosse ball next to your hip. Do not lift the hips to place the ball, simply relax on the floor, place the ball beside your hip, now roll over onto the ball. You may have to move the ball around a little bit to find the right spots, but ultimately you are looking for the pain to settle into the lacrosse ball. You may begin by rolling the knee in and out or pressing down into the floor and lifting the leg just a tiny bit. This position is uncomfortable. Stay here until you feel those muscles relax and you can allow your pressure to lay on the lacrosse ball.
All right. I think we're all set. Okay. Good morning, ladies. So I was just chatting with Marcia. Little prayer list edition for us. Some friends of ours were struggling, so we had brought the kids to our house last night, late at night. Got them off to school this morning, so thank God everything worked out. He had my schedule planned, obviously, for the morning, so that worked out really well. So just some prayers there for that family that we're trying to help out and make sure that everything's working for them. So won't get into the details, but it is a difficult situation. So we will be praying for them. Also, we'll go through this since it's Monday, the beginning of the week. All of this has kind of stayed the same. Lori's mom doing dialysis 3 times a week. Ethan with his stage 4 liver and bile duct cancer treatments. My friend's wife, who was diagnosed with breast cancer, she's treating that naturally. So just praying for healing continually through the methods that they have chosen to use. Erin, Lois's daughter, making sure that we're praying for her. I know Randy was supposed to be down there this weekend to kind of help give her a little bit of a reprieve. So hopefully we get to see him today, tomorrow sometime, and see how things are going there. Carol, with her knee surgery, just praying for the healing through her physical therapy, keeping it moving, creating good circulation and blood flow in that knee, as well as the mobility of that knee, trying to get it to really get moving and hit those numbers like she needs to. Kira's return of breast cancer. Kira, right? So Sky, oh yeah, that's in there. Sky Toyne's transplant is scheduled for this week. So this is the week they're going to start that process of transplanting new stem cells into her bone marrow. So it's going to be a big thing. So just prayer for strength as they go through this. From what I know, stem cell work inside the bone marrow is not a painless process. So be praying for that specifically. Just pain management. She's able to get through this the best that she can with hope in the end of this. And then also Barb and Tom, praying for them as well for their health. So Our verse of the day, whoever believes in the Son has eternal life. Whoever does not obey the Son shall not see life, but the wrath of God remains on him. John 3:36. It's amazing. Yeah, John 3 is very pretty specific in his attempt to establish both the godhood of Jesus Christ, but also the necessity for understanding his godship and what he truly did. So we like to try to sometimes, really focus on all the great things, and the grace and the understanding and how he is for us. But there is a point we do also have a decision to make to either follow him and his word and abide in him, to live life in him through us, or not. And so that's a big, powerful statement made in the Christian faith. So it's one of those that can be really difficult to wrestle with, but I always am encouraged by the wrestling. It's difficult in the time and it's hard to understand some of these things, but wrestle with it and see where you come out at the end of it is pretty amazing. So let's jump into our workout, ladies. Core day, obviously, so make sure you get set up on the ground here. There's no warm-up. We're just going to use our first round really to get things active, so let's go ahead and get started here. Okay, remember, strengthening the core means we're using or performing that Kegel down in the pelvic floor. Get that nice and tight.
3, 2, 1. Pelvic tilt.
You struggle with what a Kegel is. Think that you have to go to the bathroom and you're trying to pinch it off and hold it in. Or you have a fart. Just saying. Squeeze tight. Don't let it escape. Okay, then we create core compression, which is the idea if you have a Dorito under your low back, or maybe even a belt under your waist, you want to push your waist into the ground and pull, see if you can pull that belt out. If the belt slides really easy under your back, you're not doing this right. You have to really press, and when you do that, the core should engage and create a firm compression. Okay, or another way we can check this is do a crunch, like you're gonna sit up off the floor. Keep your core as tight as you can when you go to sit up, and then set your shoulders and head back down on the floor.
3,
You'll really see
2,
how that changes
1.
things.
Prepare for pelvic tilt with knee fallout.
Okay, very good. Tilt with knee fallout. So make sure as your knee goes out to the side, re-squeeze the core and then bring your knee
3,
back up
2,
into
1.
position.
Pelvic tilt with knee fallout.
Okay, good core compression. Nice and tight. Squeezing firm through the whole movement of that hip joint. And again, it does not matter how far your knee goes at this point. Okay, that is a byproduct of building strength in your core. So the stronger your core gets, the more range of motion and mobility you're going to free up in your hip, because you no longer have instability in your waist. So we want that core to get nice and tight, lumbar spine support, then go through your movements. Again, you shouldn't be squeezing your butt cheeks through this. It should be just that core firing to hold those hips in place. Okay? Really think through that core. Like I'm going to step on you if you were in front of me here.
3,
okay, ready, Marcia?
2, 1.
But we do want to think
pelvic
that.
tilt with adduction.
Core nice and tight as we go through it. Tilt with adduction. So grab that foam roller, squeeze that core nice and tight, then
3,
compress your knees.
2, 1. Pelvic tilt with adduction.
Release your knees, then release the core. Okay, so core tight, squeeze the knees. Keep your core, release the knees, then release your core. Okay, making sure that you can create the movement in the hip without losing any of your core compression. Spinal bracing, so that way when we get into our work tomorrow or leg day, we know this is most important. right? Get the core tight so we can stabilize your spine, create a nice firm
That's halfway.
approach to any movement that we create or generate. So this is the basics. This is the foundation of all your movement. Get your core tight. Good compression. Tight, tight, tight. Squeeze that core. Nice and firm.
3, 2,
Your best.
1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with knee toward chest.
Awesome. Very good work. Tilt with knee toward chest. So as you march those feet, right, compress that core. There should be
3,
no shifting
2,
or Rubik's cubing
1.
in the hips.
Pelvic tilt with knee toward chest.
Okay, so by Rubik's Cube, I just mean one side turning as you lift, and then the other side turning as you lift. So there should be no movement in the pelvis at all. Compress, 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 get the core nice and tight. Then create your march 1 foot at a time. Remember, this is not a scissors kick. We're not moving both simultaneously. Down, up, down, up, down. Okay.
That's halfway.
Again, relax your butt cheeks. Okay, I think that's where maybe a lot of confusion comes in, is the difference between performing a Kegel and squeezing your butt cheeks, right? So even those are separate and distinct movements, right? So we want to make sure we have good pelvic floor control plus the core spinal bracing. Then we create the movements that we need to create. So whether we're firing the glutes or not firing the glutes, that is conditioned
3,
completely of its
2,
own.
1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with bridge.
Okay, here we go, tilt and bridge. So here is where we start squeezing the butt cheeks, but we still perform the Kegel core compression.
3,
Then squeeze the
2,
butt cheeks, lift
1.
everything up,
Pelvic tilt with bridge.
and then set it back down, okay? Good core compression, doing your absolute best through the movement. I do not want to see a peeling effect, right? You should not peel off the ground like a sticker, right? I'm not pulling you up, you're lifting, right? Like if I lift one end of a board up in the air, it should all leave the ground. So pressing those shoulders, and try not to overextend. We're still focused on spinal bracing through the extension of the hips, so core nice and tight. What's up, buddy? Good. Firm squeeze. Nice compression.
3, 2,
Awesome work.
1.
Very good, Marsha.
Prepare for shoulder drops.
Marsha, with the pink sweater, you stand out more.
3,
Okay, here
2,
we go.
1. Shoulder drop.
Good shoulder drops. Again, remember pulling those shoulder blades down, back, down, back, down, back, down, back. Core nice and compressed. Firm squeeze through it. Nice and tight. Firm compression. Again, hold firm. Do
That's
not use your
halfway.
butt on this, right? It's just the core compressed. And again, every time you return those arms back to the starting point, you need to pull the shoulders down and back out of your ears, okay? Very good, ladies. Doing your best.
3,
Your best.
2, 1. Prepare for dead bug.
Okay, dead bugs. Get yourself set up. Core nice and tight. Keep those shins parallel with the floor.
3, 2, 1. Dead bug.
Okay, if you need a less advanced movement, that's fine. Stay with your feet down, almost just like you're doing shoulder drops. Then do one shoulder drop. As your arm returns, pull one knee up. Then set your foot back down. Arm up, arm and knee, return, then put your foot back down. Okay, so it's like your foot and arm will always be coming up to the ceiling.
That's halfway.
Set your foot back down. Arm down, foot and arm, meet up towards the middle. Okay, it's just a different way to do the dead bugs in order to get as much out of it as you can. Okay, good, tight squeeze, doing your absolute best through the movement. Tight, tight core, 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 core. Almost there, ladies. Finish nice
3,
and strong.
2, 1.
Awesome.
Long rest.
Okay, long rest. That means you get a minute to get a water break. Move around a little bit if you need to. Take a cat nap and then get back into it. Then we'll get started on round 2. Now for round 2, I want you to start lifting your feet just 50% of the weight. Okay, so your feet will not leave the ground. You're just going to lift some of the pressure off. Okay, 50% of the weight. So say there was a scale under your feet. It should read, if it was 20 pounds with your feet just setting on it, it should read 10 pounds. Okay, so you still have weight on the floor. It's just you're pulling very gently.
3, 2,
like you're going to
1.
pull your feet off
Prepare
the
for
floor.
pelvic tilt.
Okay, so practice that a bunch right here. Okay, so we're going to get that core nice and tight, firm compression, and then gently start pulling the knees, set back down, releasing the
3,
hip flexors,
2,
then release the
1.
core.
Pelvic tilt.
Okay, so this ultimately, it should force you to squeeze even just a little bit harder. If you would go to start pulling your knees towards your chest, and that ultimately makes your back bend up off the floor, that's a problem. Okay, we want to keep the core so tight, even if we fire those hips, it doesn't pull on the low back. Okay, so if you feel this in the low back, if your back's coming off the floor, squeeze harder through the core, try
That's
again.
halfway.
Squeeze harder through the core, try again. And again, it's not even leaving the ground yet, it's just trying to pull. Good core compression. Squeeze nice and tight. Firm, firm, firm.
Three, 2, 1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with knee fall out.
Let the knee fall out. Good core compression. Squeeze tight. Okay? As your knee goes to the side,
2,
squeeze the core again.
1. Pelvic tilt
And
with
bring
knee
the knee
fall
back
out.
up. Okay?
I can see that right side curve the foot out a little more. I think that's what you
Yeah, and sometimes I go on inside, whatever.
Okay, ladies, good squeeze. Again, re-squeeze that core. Don't let the pelvis roll on the floor. Okay? So my pelvis, as the knee goes out, should not switch and
That's
push
halfway.
forward. Okay? If I'm doing this little salsa dance on the floor, that's a problem. Okay?
the other way.
Remember, re-squeeze the core as the knee gets out to its end range. As soon as it hits that end range, compress, re-squeeze the core, then bring your knee back up into position, okay? Nice, tight squeeze. Do the best you can
3,
through the
2,
movement.
1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with adduction.
Good, here we go. Tilt with adduction. So grab that foam roller or a pillow, just something to squeeze
3,
between the knees.
2, 1. Pelvic tilt with adduction.
Again, same thing here, core compressed. Squeeze the knees, gently fire those hip flexors, pulling the knees towards the chest, set it back down, release the knees, then release the core. Okay, so it should be a 6-step process that's very distinct. You should be able to keep your core tight through every single contraction and every single relaxation. Core tight, core tight, core tight. Okay?
That's
Now,
halfway.
as you do any of those compressions, compressive forces, you should be retelling yourself, core tight, okay, core tight, get it again, core tight. Do your absolute best all the way through, okay, ladies? Tight squeeze, tight squeeze.
3,
Getting
2,
through.
1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with knee toward chest.
Awesome. Tilt with knee toward chest. So press
3,
that core. Again,
2,
both feet should
1.
be light on the floor.
Pelvic tilt with knee toward chest.
Core compressed, forming that Kegel, and then march those feet. Remember, the opposite foot should still be light. Core compress, core compress, core compress. Pull some of that pressure off the feet. Oh, something really cool did happen yesterday too. I was selected as volunteer of the month for our church.
Oh, cool.
Yes, that was really, really fun.
That's halfway.
And then in my card, I got a $50 gift card to Amazon. So I thought that was really fun. Because I went ahead and...
Nice to be recognized.
Yeah, well, I've never been one to care. Like, to me, it's just my role. It's just what I'm doing. If I'm called to do something, I'm just going to do it. There's no accolades that can make me better. But I am happy because
2, 1.
I was able to buy my girls
Prepare
a
for
really
pelvic tilt
nice
with bridge.
boogie board
I think
for
you're
spring break.
supposed to spend it on yourself.
Well, I bought one that's 41 inches, so technically an adult can use it. So, you know,
3,
when we're on spring break
2,
and crashing
1.
through the waves, I'll probably
Pelvic
catch
tilt
a
with
couple.
bridge.
But it's something the whole family can use. Except I've never seen Ashley actually in the water. She loves the beach, but I've never seen her in the water. So there is that. All right, here we go. Good bridges. Good bridges. Feet about shoulder width apart. Make sure your feet are kind of wide. We want some of that external rotation engaging your glute minimus and glute medius, so that way we can build strength there. So
That's
drive your
halfway.
feet kind of down and out. Okay, they should be pressing into the floor as we pinch those butt cheeks together. Okay, good compression. Nice squeeze through. Okay, doing your best all the way through, ladies. And again, recompress that core every time. Recompress that core.
3, 2, 1. Prepare for shoulder drops.
Oh yeah. Got some brisket and carrots here.
3, 2, 1. Shoulder drop. That's halfway.
Very good. Okay, remember, as those shoulders move, we're pulling them out of the ear. Pull them down. Reset if you need to, right? Get back down on the ground. Pull those shoulder blades down and back. Hands up to the ceiling. As it relaxes up, that's fine. Pull.
3,
The whole
2,
movement should be pulling
1.
from your shoulder
Prepare for dead
down
dog.
through your back. Okay? And then we add it to the dead bug. Or you could be doing the bird dog. Remember, those are exactly the same. It's just the way that gravity's
3,
pulling through your body
2,
is different.
1.
Okay, so we still
Dead
compress the core, keep it flat, create extension through, but do not let your low back move. Compress, compress, compress. Just as tight as you possibly can, okay? Tight, tight, tight. Good, firm compression. Squeeze, tight, 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 tight.
That's halfway.
Again, doing your absolute best through the movement, ladies. Compress, compress, compress. Hold that core, hold that core. Okay, remember, if you extend your leg too far, you're going to feel this in the low back, so don't think you have to hit the floor with your leg. Okay, you might shoot up more towards the corner of this building or even straight up to the ceiling. Okay,
3,
pick a point that just
2,
is really
1.
challenging.
Long rest.
Awesome. Very good work, ladies. Fantastic. Last round, let's go ahead and see. The goal is to lift your feet through whatever movement that we create. If you cannot, that's fine. Leave them on the floor. Create a tiny bit of pull through those hip flexors like you were lifting your feet, but re-squeeze the core and make it tight through the whole thing, okay?
Three, 2, 1. Prepare for pelvic tilt.
All right, get ready. Last round. Remember, do your absolute best through each one of these movements. We want to create fantastic movement
3, 2,
without moving.
1. Pelvic tilt.
Okay, pelvic tilt. See if you can hover those feet. Remember, as you lift the feet, your pelvis structure, your waist, none of that should change. You should already be so tight. When you pull the slack and you start lifting those feet, nothing changes. Okay, that's how firm it should be before your feet even start to pull like you're lifting them off the ground. Okay, so if you do notice a change, try to get yourself to think, okay,
That's
squeeze even
halfway.
harder, then pull the feet. Squeeze even harder, then pull the feet. Okay, doing very well. So finish nice and strong, get all the way through, doing your absolute best. Very good.
3, 2,
Nice work,
1.
Marsha.
Prepare for pelvic tilt with knee fall out. Three, 2, 1. Pelvic tilt with knee fall out.
Tilt and knee fall out. So again, compress that core, squeeze nice and tight as that knee goes to the side. And then lift up. Core compress, squeeze those knees up. Then go back out to the side. Remember, as we do this, there should be no shifting in that pelvic bowl. Or you can even think like a glass was
halfway.
sitting on your pelvis. You don't want to spill the glass as this goes, okay? Core so tight, hips don't shift or shake at all. Okay, do your absolute best through the movement, tight squeeze, firm compression. Very good, ladies. Re-squeeze all the way
3,
through, all the way
2,
through.
1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with adduction.
Good. Tilt with adduction. So foam roller, pillow, doesn't matter. Whatever you have at home. Make sure you compress that core. Squeeze the knees.
3,
Lift the feet.
2,
Set the feet back down.
1.
Release the knees.
Pelvic tilt with adduction.
Then release the core. Again, very distinct. Nothing should shut off outside of one at a time. Okay? Core tight. Squeeze those knees. Lift those feet. Set the feet. Keep the knees. Release the knees. Then release the core. Very, very distinct. Always retraining the brain to connect to that core through whatever movement we try to create. So that way, when we create movement, hopefully the core begins to automatically
That's
engage
halfway.
even more through those movements. Good, tight squeeze, tight squeeze. Firm compression all the way through. Do your best. Do your best. Nice
3,
tight squeeze.
2, 1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with knee toward chest.
Awesome. Tilt with knee toward chest. So again, back into the march. I want you to try, hover both feet, bring one up, back down to a hover.
3,
Then the other
2,
one up,
1.
back down to a
Pelvic
hover.
tilt with knee
Then
toward
you can
chest.
set your feet down. And if you need to, in order to do it, just pull a little bit of weight. You don't have to hover, but we do want some of that flexion coming through the hips, okay? So tight core, compress, 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 re-squeeze the Kegel, forcing that core nice and tight, lifting the feet. Yes, it's a lot to think about. But the more we think about it here, the less we think about it out there when we go into the real world and create movement that's training
That's
our body all day
halfway.
long. Very good. Tight core, squeeze firm, firm, firm. All the way through.
Yeah, it's so
3, 2, 1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with bridge.
Very good.
Tall. But
3, 2, 1. Pelvic tilt with bridge.
Oh, I went about 30 minutes. My fingers were so I ended up with
Very good, ladies. Good bridge, core compress, squeeze the butt cheeks really, really tight. Set back down. Remember, if you lift, you're lifting, you're not peeling. And core compressed, firm, firm, firm through.
That's halfway.
Yeah, it was very
It was kind of fun at the halftime because all the halftime performers were really popular during my high school
we
days.
all said it was kind of lost on us.
Yeah, so like we kind of enjoyed it because it was just fun to see all of the people we knew and like what we grew up with at the halftime.
3,
But it was funny because
2,
Micah was
1.
watching. You know, and they're
Prepare
kind of
for
watching,
shoulder
they're seeing
drops.
all this different stuff. And then sure enough, Micah bends over and grabs his feet and starts moving his butt towards us. We're like, huh, that's funny.
3, 2,
Oh, Micah,
1.
silly boy.
Shoulder drop.
Here we go, shoulder drops. We got 2 left, ladies. So again, do